So that's recording, right?
Yeah, it's recording. Yes, it's recording, and we have started. All right, guys. So my name is UC Royal, and someone special, someone important of important personality is with me here today. As you can see, T Code. I don't even need to introduce him so much. Those of you who are in the voiceover industry, you already know like he's like the big shot. He's like the one that a lot of us are looking up to. We want to be like, how are you today?
Really fine. I'm kind of like shy
No,
about
he's
this.
not shy. He's
Okay, yeah, I cannot be shy when I don't need to be shy, but this doesn't look like one of those times because
yeah,
you're singing my praises. So,
well deserving. Okay, well
right.
deserving. He's an award-winning voiceover artist, and if you just go and
Okay.
click prolific number one voiceover artist in Nigeria, his name is going to
Abego,
pop up. At least top
Abego,
five. At least top
Abego.
five. Anyway,
I have a
so
lot of seniors, so
mm,
shout out to them. But
shout out to the bosses.
gotta do what we gotta do.
We still honor you. We still respect you. Anyway, so he's in town, in
Yeah,
Abuja, and I
I
decided to
am.
drag him here so that we'll have a conversation,
Yeah,
a long overdue conversation that we want to talk about,
yeah,
and it's really about the voiceover industry. So
yeah.
before we even go into all of the, plenty talk, how did
Mhm.
you start voiceover, and how did you know that you wanted to do voiceover?
Those are two separate questions, but
Yeah,
really interesting and interwoven. So, how did I start voiceover? Should I take start or how?
start.
Okay, how did I start was I think it was basically while I was in school.
Yeah.
I was into the publicity part of the fellowship that I was on campus, right?
Mhm.
So the I was at some point I became the publicity secretary,
Okay.
and I thought we couldn't. I didn't want us to continue doing publicity the same way. We just print flyers everywhere and give people. I felt like why not do something that a lot of people could connect with at once?
Yeah.
This was a time when social media was still quite, like Facebook was the main thing, and I felt like different people would see it on different, bases, but
Mhm.
I wasn't sure we were hitting the target, right? So I
Yeah.
wanted to do a voiceover that could air in the school campus radio, and a lot of people would hear at the same time.
Yeah.
So that led me to thinking out of the box. So
Mhm.
I took my phone and another phone, and I wrote a script, and I recorded it in my wardrobe there. It wasn't as easy as I'm saying.
You recording it in your wardrobe meant that you already kind of knew that this is the way to record something so that it comes out sounding
Actually,
nice. So you already had like a prior knowledge.
no. I mean, prior to that time, I'd never been to a studio before.
Yeah.
Prior to that time, all I knew about my voice was mimicking comic or cartoon characters. And just everything I saw on TV, I trained my voice to be able to articulate them.
Mm-hmm.
So different voices, female, children, male, old man, newscaster,
Mm-hmm.
movies, cartoon, their songs. I could sing Powerpuff Girls songs. All of those stuff that kids do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but this time around, I wanted to do what I heard on radio for events.
Yeah.
So I wanted to publicize the church events then, and I just thought about it. Okay, how do I go about this? A script is needed. I
Yeah.
needed to know what I wanted to say. So I knew I'll be reading a script, then I needed to record it, right? So it's on an MP3 format
Yeah.
so that I can take it to wherever. So if I were going to record it, then I also need background music.
Mm-hmm.
So the question was, how do I get background music? So I took another phone and I was playing the song in the background from
Yeah.
where exactly I wanted the song to start from. I had reduced the volume enough such
Mhm.
that it's not going to be louder than my voice.
Yeah.
So I just had to calculate those stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment I'm ready to record, I'll press play on both phones.
Oh my goodness.
And then I start reading.
You start measuring.
And I wasn't making any mistake, right?
Oh my
If I made any
goodness.
mistake, I was going to start all over again.
Yeah.
So that was like the discipline that I started with in voiceovers. I had no idea there was a level of intentional editing. I knew something happened, but I had never,
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. And then when I went to the campus radio itself, I then realized that okay, I'll just enter into the studio, record,
Right.
and somebody does the editing stuff. But I had no idea how to do that.
That was how you
So
started.
yeah, that was like my first, and the church was like, wow,
And it came out really nice, yeah?
Yeah, it did. Well, after a lot of trials, because
Mhm.
I'll make some mistakes, or just the music would finish before my voice
Yeah.
or something,
Oh,
So I had to do it.
but it's okay. I mean, for a start and being that you were
Yeah,
just trying out something, it wasn't like something
yeah.
you
It,
already
it really
pretty
trained
much used
me
to.
to know how to read,
Yeah.
because this isn't a case where you had the opportunity to retake a phrase or a line or,
Mm-hmm.
finally,
Mm.
finally, all of
Yeah.
that. You
So you were
couldn't do
just
that.
redoing it.
I had to rehearse it. Then the moment go, I just, you're welcome to till the end. There was
Just to put
no,
it out there.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So it trained me, in a very, very crude manner, though.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, I started getting exposed to how these things are being done, especially when I went for service and I
Mm-hmm.
had to work at the broadcast service of Ekiti State in Ekiti State, Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history, as they say. But then the other question is how I knew this was what I was
What
going
you
to
want,
do,
yeah.
right? I think it was when I started realizing that I could actually make money off this. I
Mm-hmm.
started to take it more serious.
Yeah.
A lot of people had always told me that you had a great voice,
Mm.
and it's the same way. I am a very good artist. Like I draw, and
Oh,
paint so well.
wow.
And since I was a kid, everybody had told me, "Man, this guy, you need to go and." But I tried it for a while. I didn't understand how to make money off it. The environment I was didn't, really
Give you
support
that
it. Yeah,
opportunity, yeah.
exactly. They would just tell you it's nice. Nobody was going to pay for it.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of skills that I think a lot of us have, and we just commonize it because we haven't tasted the value. Like we don't know how much it
Mm.
could put food on our tables, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. Perhaps if somebody had paid me 100,000 naira at that time for one of my drawings, I'd have taken it more serious.
More seriously.
But
Yeah.
because I worked in the media field where people wanted my voice,
Mm.
even as little as say 5,000 naira, 3,000 naira, I
Yeah.
was like, because I was a student, so I was like, oh more, this thing something,
Yeah.
so it kept, I can do better, I
Mm-hmm.
can do better, and when I was working on radio back then, my salary wasn't as much as I would want to have me through the month, so it was like a side hustle, and I kept looking at it as, okay, the turning point for me was one time my birthday era, and I called one of my aunties that to say happy Christmas because
Yeah.
I'm born on Christmas Day.
25th of December.
Yes. So that was the era where, and she was like, dude, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
See, this is how much you make. You're the firstborn,
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities and all of that.
Yeah.
And you're not earning enough. And after that call, I just had to think about my life again. I'm like, I know I'm talented. I know I have a lot of things, but look at what I'm earning. So I told myself, okay, what else can you do apart from radio that will make money? I have a
Absolutely.
great voice.
Mm-hmm.
Can I find more ways to make money off that voice? And then I went on YouTube and I listened to different YouTube videos, and the people who weren't speaking well enough,
Mm-hmm.
but had great content,
Yeah.
I'd get their names and all of that, and then I look for them on Instagram, and then I message them,
Wow.
and I got like one or two responses,
Mm-hmm.
but one stuck. Like, okay, send me what you can do, and I did send it to the person, and that person happens to be till date one of my clients that we work together, and I mean consistently, and I make money from that gig. So that was the turning point because the person, interestingly, they were not even in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I didn't know because we were chatting on Instagram and the YouTube content was all about Nigerian stuff.
Yeah.
And then the person said, can I put you on a monthly payment of 20 something pounds? So when I was like, oh, somebody's going to pay pounds for my voice.
Yeah.
Something that these people are
So that just kind of
giving me
opened
like
your eyes
5,000
and made you
naira.
realize that.
I said, yes, I'm going to take this very serious.
Yeah.
So I kept putting, like doing more research. The following year,
Mm.
which was 2020, I went for training, the voice of a workshop, and I heard the experiences of people who have been in the industry for like 10 years. I'm like, wow, so there are people who really, really, really do things and
Yeah.
then make a lot. I said, I can be that kind of person. Because when I listen to myself, and I listen to the guy on the commercial on TV, I'm like, I can do this thing now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I really, really sound like it.
Yeah.
But what does he know that I don't know?
Right.
So, like, that was my push. That began my conscious decision to say, I'm going to be this person. I'm going to be a voiceover artist.
Right.
And I will do well at it.
I mean, I think that that's just a very inspiring story just to learn how you started. And it's just something that anyone who's listening out there, if you're wondering how to start, when to start, You can always look within. There will always be something that you can do more. There will
Yeah.
always be that gift that you have not harnessed, and when you do harness it, eventually it's going to start earning. Because I believe all the gifts that we have and are given is given to us for us to use it to make money. Honestly, to survive. Okay, so you've been
Yeah.
given a talent, and I think that's just amazing. I also think that in the time that we're living in, thank God for technology, because
Yeah.
voiceover is not something that just started. It's been going
Yeah.
on for a very long time. But I
Yeah.
think that because of the internet, because we now have access to the internet, people now know
Yeah.
that okay, this is a big deal, and I think we're really making strides in the
Yeah.
industry. I
We
think
are.
that people now know and recognize the fact that voiceover is an industry, just the same way you have the music industry, the same way you have the
Movie.
Nollywood industry,
Yeah.
the movie industry. So this is now an industry, but I still feel like because me, I like money. I'm an evil lady. So I, when it comes to the financial aspect of it, I
Mm.
still feel like people have not realized the worth
Yeah.
and the value. And that's really what I want
Yeah.
us to talk about briefly before we wrap up today.
Yeah.
People have not really gotten to that point where they recognize the value and the worth. It's just like when you want to make a movie. If somebody wants to make a movie and they tell them that, okay, this is the budget to make a movie and stuff, they're going to be like, okay, we'll pay it. It's a movie, it's going to go out there. The
Yeah.
same thing with music.
Yeah.
If someone says, okay, this is how much it costs to record the music in music studio, produce a song, master on all of those things, people recognize that value. But when it comes to voiceover, in
Yeah.
this age and time, we still
Yeah.
have people pricing down
Mm.
people who want to pay the list
Mm.
for it.
Mm.
And I want to know why and what can we do to change that narrative. And I also know that the few times when I've asked that question, people will be like, oh, it's about your worth, it's about your voice and this and that and that and that.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that when it comes to working with clients, there are clients who they don't, you are in the voiceover industry. If you are a client and you want to
Mm-hmm.
hire a voice to do voiceover for you,
Mm-hmm.
when you hear a good voice, a rich voice, a powerful voice, a trained voice, you would know and you would value that voice. But there are a lot of times the clients do not even recognize the difference. It's just if somebody's voice this thing for me and let's get it over and done with.
Yeah.
So we can't usually based on the fact that while it's important that the client recognizes that your voice is valuable, but just randomly, a
Yeah.
client who wants a voiceover. So why do we still have that problem of being priced down? And how can we change that narrative moving forward?
Okay. So I can give you like the very one word answer that like that's actually the answer.
Yeah,
But then I'll do more to try to help you understand it in layers.
yeah.
So the main answer to that question is ignorance
On whose part?
on both parts, the
Okay.
part of the client and the
Hmm.
part of the talent or the industry stakeholders.
Okay.
So on part of, see, if voice talents themselves don't know the worth or the value of what they're doing, it becomes then difficult for them to even convince clients that
Hmm.
this is the value of what they're doing. Because the way the posture, the mental posture, if for instance, hypothetically, you think the value of your 60 seconds commercial is 20,000 naira,
Mm-hmm.
your mental posture when you meet a client that says, I want to pay you 10,000 naira, is like, big nah, 20, 20, 20, and the person prices it to 15K, and you're like, okay, that's because mentally your range for the value or worth of what you're doing is 20,000 naira.
Hmm.
And the day you meet somebody that wants to pay you 150,000 naira, or you say my charge is 30K, and the person is like, 30K, wow, that's quite small. Anyways, okay, we're going to pay that 30K. Something begins to prickle in you that, mean, what am I,
Hmm.
so there's a place of knowing what the worth is
Yeah.
so that you can position yourself to have conversations. And when somebody says 20K, you're like, I'm very, very sorry, but I can't do it for 20K. Now, there's a place of understanding the worth, and there's a place of also understanding why it should be worth that amount.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very good example. Hypothetically, let's break it down now. You do a studio recording and you pay that amount of, say, 50,000 naira for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then you look at the cost. You see, let me tell you this: to understand what something should cost
Mm-hmm.
or what the price should be, what the worth should be, you need to factor in certain indices.
Yeah.
One is the cost of production. Another thing that also determines the value is the the end client. So some items are very expensive because the user are in the bracket we call the luxury folks. Like
Yeah.
the rich,
Mm-hmm.
right? 1% of, So when you look at the usage, it also tells you what the value should be.
Right.
And when you look at the cost of production, say for instance, precious stones are quite expensive. Also, when you look at the work that goes into finding those things, the excavation and all of that. So let's bring it back to voiceover, right? It costs you about 50,000 naira, say, to get this recording done.
Mm-hmm.
The 50,000 naira doesn't include your voice.
Mm-hmm.
We've not even talked about the worth of your voice,
Yeah.
right? So then we now put in the cost of even transporting yourself. Perhaps you took an Uber ride. So let's say, give or take, your transportation is like 10,000
Mm-hmm.
naira, thereabout.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like plus 50K, that's
Yeah.
60K already. Of course, that voiceover cannot cost 30K. I mean, you can't charge your client fairly. Do you
Absolutely.
get?
Yeah.
And then you now look at, now, there's also production fee, because the producer is going to tell you that I'm just going to cut this thing for you and give it to you. But if
Yeah.
you want me to mix it with background sound and
And
all
all
of
of
that,
those things.
you're going to pay, maybe say, he says, oh, bring 30,000 naira, bring 40,000 naira. By the time you put all of this together, the cost of production alone
It's
is
almost getting to like
100K.
100K or thereabout.
Now you're not thinking of my voice. What do I put? You see, let me put it this, and I give this example. Davido won't go to perform and he's going to pay his band members more than he'll pay himself.
True.
He's the superstar, is the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
So if your producer is going to take like 70K, why shouldn't you take 100K?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to look at it from that angle, then you're saying maybe this is going to cost 170
Yeah,
or
but we
200,000
understand
naira.
these things, but the clients do not understand.
And that's
it.
why we need to educate our clients.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, if I know someone who said to the client, okay, can you find me a studio to record? I'll just record and I'll charge you for my voice.
Mm.
And, you can take care of the others.
Mm-hmm.
Like the producer, just pay. And then when the client reaches out to studios and they hear for themselves,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
illiteracy is the problem.
Sure.
And it's very, very challenging when you leave the work of educating the client
Mm-hmm.
to the hands of the talents themselves, because it can come off to the client as you're trying to be too extra.
Yeah.
So there is a need for a general sort of education.
Right.
The stakeholders involved have to come to a place of knowing. When we say the stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? We're talking about the voice of our talent. We're talking about the voice of our institutions in the industry, say voice of our training centers.
Yeah.
We're talking about ad agencies and perhaps government bodies. So when you say ad agencies, for instance, it's a question of, do they know?
Mm-hmm.
If they don't know, okay, they need to be educated.
Absolutely.
If they know, are they trying to consciously take advantage of your ignorance?
Yeah.
Those are two sides of the conversation that we can go into
Absolutely.
right now.
Yeah.
In a case where we have all of the stakeholders, we're talking about the voiceover academies, the voiceover, no, the ad agencies, and all of those, stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier. There's a need for a collective agreement to structure, to standard, to policies and regulations. Because it is when we have a system that can declare, and I mean, that is when we would be respected enough that these structures, I mean, these stakeholders can submit or accept this that we're saying. One individual trying to explain to one client doesn't solve the problem.
Absolutely.
There are a myriad of clients out there, both internationally and locally.
Yeah.
But when we have for instance, an association or a union, a very legitimate, strong body that can say, this is the status quo, this is the price range for voiceovers in this country, this is all of that. When that is in place, it makes the work of education easier, because there's a reference point, there's a document, there is an announcement, there is a press release.
And so the standard, the rating.
Yeah, so that explains the problem and the solution.
And well, I think for us at this stage in the industry, and being that I wouldn't say where a lot of people already know that this is a full blown industry with regulations. At least we have
Yeah,
some regulations. We even have standard rates. I think for where we are, we're still trying as much as possible to create that awareness for people to know that okay, this is a full industry,
yeah,
okay, and there are rates for these things. As much as you will see those who are not, because there are people who are not part of the industry. Just the way you have actors and actresses who are honestly not part of the association of the
yeah,
Nollywood, so they don't know what the rates are, they don't know. So people, those kinds of people who are outside
yeah,
of these associations are
yeah.
really the ones who are causing the issues for us because they will always be the ones who will subsidize those prices to that level. That's why you hear clients saying that, oh, I have somebody who's going to do a 5K, so if you're not going to do it, that's it.
Yeah.
So there will always be those people.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing is that you see, if you think you have somebody who's going to do it for 5K, give it to the person who's going to do it for 5K,
That's what it
and
is.
you're going to get the quality of 5K. The person is just gonna. That's the only I can't. I
You
mean,
really get the quality
my
of
voice is
5K.
not 5K. Like just to say MTN is
Mm.
not 5K. It's not
Okay, it's
50K.
not just one line.
That one line. One of my mentors, his first voiceover gig was a seven, was it 7 or 5 line 5 words read,
Mm.
just that line.
Yeah.
This was I think up to close to 10 years or so, I
Oh
can't remember.
wow.
Was paid 70,000 naira
At the time.
at the time. It wasn't a paragraph.
Yeah.
It wasn't up to 10 lines. I think it's just 7 lines,
Wow.
70,000 naira. So that's just for me to say your name.
Mm.
It's not 5K.
It is not. It is
So
not. People need to understand
yeah,
value and they need to
yeah, and
understand
then
quality. That's what we bring to the
yeah,
table.
and see, when you talk about money, right? When you talk about pricing,
Yeah.
it's not like some of us are trying to be extra unnecessarily.
Yeah.
See, there is what we call the industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
If the industry standard is 50,000 naira, I'm just saying hypothetically,
Yeah.
I am not going to charge you 50,000 naira. I'm going to charge you a double, if not more of that.
Yeah.
And there are several reasons to it. One, like I mentioned earlier, you also look at who the end user is. The amount I'm going to charge a Dangote is not the same thing I'm going to charge one SME.
Mm.
So if it's a luxury brand, it's a big deal.
Right.
The usage is what
Mm.
we're looking at. So if it's going to be used for an hour,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to be used for, sorry, for like a year, it's different from how much I'm going to charge you if it's going to be used for 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you also look at the talent himself.
Mm-hmm.
For me to have gotten to this point where I'm so good, I have invested many years of work. I have paid for courses. I have upgraded my equipment. If I tell you the worth of my studio, like, and all of that.
Yeah.
So you are paying for professionalism.
True.
You're paying for expertise.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
So
I
if you,
should.
if you don't want quality, please go ahead. There were those
It's
people.
your
I can
choice.
recommend a few people that will collect that money and they'll give you the nonsense that you want to collect, pay. But I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Anyway, but seriously, if you want quality, and I always tell my clients this, the reason you came to me, because I'm sure that you must have heard of other people when you asked for a voiceover artist, the reason you came to me is because they told you that this person is going to give you quality. So if it is quality that you want, you have to be ready for it. If it's
Yep.
not quality, then I can even recommend you someone that someone that will take it at a smaller price. Anyway, thank you so much, T Code, for your time today.
My
I
pleasure.
hope that there's so much to talk about really, but I hope that maybe when next you're in town, we'll
Yeah.
sit down again and have this conversation to enlighten those out there who also want to go into voiceover. So, what's your final take and what's your final word for those who want to go into voiceover and they don't know where to start from?
Yeah. I think one of the major things I said today is the place where ignorance
Mm.
or lack of knowledge, illiteracy is, ravaging the progress of the industry. So the place to start from is getting knowledge,
Sure.
getting information. You go for courses. Take advantage of online resources. There are a lot of them. Unfortunately, you have, no, I wouldn't say unfortunately, it's just the way it is. You have a lot of resources that are tailored towards people who aren't Africans. And that's because if you want to create a content, you most likely will be thinking of your local community first.
Mm-hmm.
So the voiceover industry outside Africa is quite, grown to an extent. So what happens and why I'm, specific about saying this is that if all you're going to learn about voiceover is what you're being taught by the white guys, the challenge you're going to have is because this is an artistry, you're going to sort of almost start sounding like them, and you're losing out on how it is being done locally, because there are some accents that relate to the Nigerian,
Yeah.
and you're not going to. I mean, a white man is not going to teach you how to do
An
voiceovers in
African
pidgin.
accent. Oh, yeah.
Mm. So you need to understand the local context, the colloquials that we use when we are communicating. That is why I would recommend, when you're finding your knowledge, also pay for African resources that will teach you voiceover. You can go for trainings. And on a final note, I have a podcast called the Everything Voiceovers Podcast, African
Absolutely.
Perspective, and you can find voiceover conversations. I have at least 40 episodes there. I've interviewed over 20 guests from Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and different countries. So there's a lot of information on the podcast. You can learn
And
voiceover there.
if they want to get some podcast, some voiceover trainings,
Yeah.
what are the platforms that they would want to join? Could you recommend a few of those?
Okay.
Yeah, that you recommended to me as well when I wanted to start.
Okay, so in Nigeria, we have, Nigeria is like one of the hub for voiceover trainings right now in Africa. We have
Yeah.
more training centers than anywhere in Africa. Okay, so let's talk about Nigeria. You have Voiceover Academy, Voiceover Workshop. You have Daza Voiceovers. You have Voice of Steph Academy. Ace Wonders is putting off
Oh, yeah.
a training as well. And then you have folks there's voiceover boot camp. There is kickstarting to VOs. There's one other one I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
But then there are also individuals who offer one-on-one trainings like I do.
Okay.
So yeah, you can reach out to some of us in probably a DM on Instagram.
Yeah.
We'll get the conversation started, and then you know how much it'll cost and all of that.
All right, so get your money ready because all these trainings are not free. Thank you so much, Tico.
You're welcome.
My name is Yusi Royal, so make sure to follow us on Instagram at UsiRoyal_, and also follow T-Code.
T-Code_70
Yes.
on Instagram.
And a big shout out to TLC, the Learned Company, for their facility. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.